Blender. It's a great thing, really. I mean, you could do a lot of stuff with it. Like, you can make like a photorealistic dog. I mean, like you can make like a banana. You can make pretty much everything with it. But that's not what we're doing today. Why am I standing up? I don't know why I'm standing up. It's 1:55 in the morning and I'm making a tutorial. So let's get into it. Hi, my name is Michael from PolygonIsland, and today I'm making a beginner Blender tutorial for all you beginner Blenderers out there. I know, it's crazy, isn't it? But today we're going to be making a low poly hut scene, so let's get right into this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lay out the landscape. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to hit Shift A on my keyboard, and under mesh I'm just going to add a cube. And then I'm going to hit S and bring my cursor down, like straight down, and use my middle mouse button to lock it to the Z axis, and just bring it down to where it's really thin. And I'm going to bring it up like this towards about like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start subdividing this thing. Okay, I'm going to hit tab, and I'm going to right click, and I'm going to click subdivide. And I'm going to keep subdividing it until we have quite a few subdivisions right here. I'd say this is enough for now. Maybe subdivide it one more time. I'd say that's enough subdivisions. So now we're going to go over here at the top to sculpting. These little tabs up here, they can be used for a lot of different things. Pretty much they're self-explanatory, but we're going to use the sculpting tab. And so we're basically just going to sculpt a little like landscape. So go up here to the right. This X should be highlighted. Turn it off. That basically just turns off symmetry on the x-axis. It's on by default. I don't know why it's on by default, but yeah. Basically, we're just gonna start sculpting a little landscape right here. Doesn't have to be anything like too good or anything. Just something to like. I forgot they changed it to Shift S for the smooth brush instead of just S. But to go to smooth brush, you just hit Shift S, and to go back to the draw brush, hit X on your keyboard. This doesn't have to be really good or anything, just something to kind of even out the terrain. I'm leaving this middle part flat because we're gonna make our little river in it. So yeah, I'm just kind of building up this right over here. Just smoothing it out, doing stuff like this. Just kind of get a little terrain going right here. And if you want to, you can go to the sculpt or the draw brush again, hit Control, and this will subtract it instead of drawing on it. So you can do that too if you wanted to. Just kind of put a little crevice for this river to go, and then we can hit Shift S and then smooth this out once more. Just build up a little terrain here. You don't have to do anything really fancy. Just build up a little terrain. And we can kind of smooth out these sides too. Like that. And now what we can do is we can start modeling the actual hut and stuff. So what I'm going to do first is I'm actually going to model the river. So we have a place to put the hut and stuff to line everything up. So what I'm going to model the river is I'm going to get a plane, and I'm going to position it right over here, and I'm going to stretch it out like this, and stretch it out this way to where we have it like this, to where it's kind of like even with the edges. And what we can also do, well, what we're going to do now is we're going to hit tab, and we're going to subdivide this thing again. Not again, but we're going to subdivide this for the first time, and we're going to give this, I'd say, about 10 to 12 cuts. I'm going with 12 right now to see how that goes. And also what you might need to do is make these more square. So the way to do that is if you hit Control R, you can add manual loop cuts. So just do that, make these more square, so the displacement that we're going to add here in a little bit will work better with it. And we're just going to keep loop cutting right here, kind of in the middle, like that. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go over here to this little wrench icon on the right. Click that. That's our modifiers tab. Modifiers will just modify your object. But what we're going to do is we are going to add a displace modifier. It is the fourth one under the deform tab. Just add a displace modifier and click new. And then the texture. Texture, what we're going to use is we're going to go down here and we're going to click new texture and just put this as displacement or something, and then click OK. And then the type, we can just do clouds. Clouds would be good. And that looks pretty good right now. But what we're going to do to make it actually look like low poly instead of just like these polygons is with the displacement modifier, with the texture and stuff, what we can do is we can go in and add a triangulate modifier, which will give it that more triangular look. So once we have that, we can go in and add a few more loop cuts if we want, just through here, just to kind of break it up a little bit. You don't have to do it on every single one of them, just a few. And now we have this river. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start modeling the actual hut. So what you might notice over here is that the ground is clipping through. What you can do is you can just select the ground, hit tab to go into edit mode, and then go up here at the top where this little circle icon is and this little hump. Turn that on. That's proportional editing. What proportional editing is when you select a vertex of your face, there's a area that you can define that by using your scroll wheel that will affect all the vertices or faces around it. So we just click on a vertex down here and we just bring it down a little bit. You can see that I have this circle right here, and if you use scroll wheel you can make it bigger or smaller on the area you want to affect, and you can just bring them up or down, something like that. I also want to move this part over a little bit. Just move this over. You could also sculpt this back out, but I'm just doing this because it's faster. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna start sculpting making the actual hut. So I'm gonna go ahead and make a dock by getting a cube and just scaling it down really far, and then extruding it out, and then extruding it down to where it's flat. So if you hit period on your numpad, you can zoom in and focus on the object, which is really cool. I'm gonna hit RX and 90, or not RX, RY90, not RY, RZ90 to rotate it that way. And what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to build a little dock out. So just something like this, and an easy way to do this instead of duplicating each cube is we go to add modifier and then go to array, and then we put 0 on the X, and then on the Y we put like 1 or maybe 2, maybe 1.5, 1.35. It's about 1.35, and then just change the counts to however many you want, and then we can scale this down a little bit more if we need to. Then have this there, and then once we have this here, we can have it coming up a little bit more. Maybe give it 1 more. And then once we have that, we can go up here and then click. Well, actually, we're not going to apply the modifier yet because we're going to need to use it once more. We can hit Shift D and duplicate these planks, move them back here, RZ90 to move them back, and we can just line these up right here like this, something like this at least. And what I actually might do is move these a little bit farther up like this. And then here's why we didn't apply the array modifier is we need to up the count of this a little bit more. Move this back a little bit and move them forward a little bit more. And so now we have this dock type thing. So now that we have the dock type thing, what we're going to do is we're going to add the little posts. So a very easy way to do that, just get a cylinder and make it small, scale it up. We can actually scale it up right now so we can actually see what we're doing. And all we're going to do is we're just going to hit Control R on our keyboard to add a loop cut. add a loop cut over here, add one here, close to the center. Doesn't have to be very perfect since you won't be seeing these up close, but just to add a little bit more detail. Just do that, and then go up here or hit 3 on your keyboard to go to face select mode, and hit Alt Shift and click to select the ring of faces, and we're gonna hit E and then S on our keyboard to extrude these out, and we're gonna do the same thing here. E S to extrude them out, and then down here, Alt Shift click to E S extrude them out. So now we have this little post thing, which we're gonna use as our thing to hold up our dock. So if you hit period on your keyboard or your numpad, you can focus it again. Try to get these the right size compared to the dock. I'd say that's the right size. And then what we can do is we can add an array modifier to this too, and maybe make this like 4.7, I'd say. And then just keep adding these, and then you can duplicate these to the other side, like so. Back a little bit. I need to do this. And then once we have those, what we can do is we can just Shift D RZ90 to duplicate them to the other side of this part right here. And so now we have this little dock situation going on right here. These I might change to do that, and move these back here, and just do that. Change it back to 4.7. Change the count to 3. And now we have this dock, which is looking pretty nice right now. So now we're gonna sculpt, or not sculpt, I keep saying sculpt. Now we're gonna make the actual hut. So how we make the hut is very simple. We're just going to get a cube, bring it over here, put it over here, and just make a little like house shape from it. So I'm going to put these pretty much right on the dock. Have them out a little bit more, and just duplicate these, then RY90 to flip it, and put this down here, bring it over where it's right here, Shift D RZ90 to flip it backwards, and then we're going to bring it over here, scale it down a little bit, and then we're going to do the same thing over here. So now we just have this box, and move it, scale it down a little bit, and so now we have this box. So what you might want to do is scale these down on the Z axis a little bit. So SZ or SY, nope, SX, SZ, oh, it is Z. Just scale it down a little bit to where it's not too big or anything, and just put it kind of like that. And what you can do if you wanted to is you can just duplicate these stakes, change the count to 3, and then duplicate them to the other side like that. So now we have this. So now what we're going to do is we're going to cut out holes in this to add the doors and windows and stuff. So very easy way to do that is with booleans. So what we're going to do is just get another cube, bring it over to where the shack is. We're going to scale it down, and then try to make as close to a door shape as possible. So maybe something like that would be good. Make sure it's intersecting with the cube. And then what we can do is we can select the cube that we want the door on, and then add modifier, and then add boolean. Make sure it's on difference, and click this little eyedropper tool down here, and then just pick the cube. You can see now there's a cutout in here. So if we go to this little arrow and click apply, and then we delete the cube, we can see there's now a little cutout inside of there. So that's pretty cool. We can also do the same thing for like a window type thing. Just bring it over here, then just put it down here. Then add another Boolean modifier to this object, select the cube, and same concept, we now have a window. So what we're gonna do now is we are going to add like little boards to the sides of this to make it look like an actual hut. Way we're gonna do that is the same way we did with the docks. We're just gonna make these little boards. Actually, what we could probably do is just, or not that, duplicate the docks probably. RY90, and then just scale them out like this. Scale them down, and just kind of fit them to where they fit the hut. And so we can move this way, and then move it on the other side, even though you won't really see this. Shift D, RZ90. We can kind of just do this. Now we have these little planks on it. So now what we're going to do is, you guessed it, the roof. So we're going to do RY -45 on our keyboard. Just bring this up, and what we're actually going to do is on this array, we're going to change how close they are to maybe something like that. And then just basically just make a roof shape. Shift D, and then RY90 to flip it. And now we have this. We might need to size them up a little bit so they actually connect and stuff. So now we have this little hut thing going on, which is pretty cool. I'm going to duplicate this and bring it up to where we have this. And then actually what I'm going to do here is I'm going to hit tab, select the top face, hit I on my keyboard to inset this, and then I'm going to delete the vertices, not the vertices, delete the face here, and then delete the face under it. So now we have this little ridge with that little hole in the top. So once we have that, what we can do is we can shade this cube smooth, or this landscape smooth, by just selecting it and then clicking, or right clicking and clicking shade smooth. And now what we can do is we can start doing our basic texturing, which isn't really texturing since this is low poly. It's kind of just like basic colors. So I'm gonna go ahead and delete this light because we're gonna set up our new lighting setup. But first I'm gonna do this river, so I'm gonna click it. I'm gonna go down to the material tab at the bottom at the left here, click, or right there, click new, and then I'm gonna click glass BSDF, and I'm gonna give it a kind of blue material like that. Change the roughness to about 2.3 or 0.23. That might be good enough. And then what we can do is we can click these little docks. And the reason I use the array modifier instead of duplicating it, not only was it faster, but we also don't have to worry about applying material to every single one of these. So we can just click new here, and then the base color we can change it to a dark gray, and then just move over here to where it's a brown. Maybe change it to a little bit of a lighter brown, and then we can select what we just applied the material to, and then select every other plank, and then copy material to selected. Never mind, we're not going to do that. We are going to select every other plank, and then we're going to select the last one, and then copy material to selected. And now every material is on every plank. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do basically the same thing. We're going to apply the same material off of, make the roughness all the way up on this, on the brown material. But what we're going to do is on these little notches, if we hit Alt or Alt Shift again, we can give it a new material. So make sure that the brown material is applied first, and then once you have the faces selected, make sure the faces are selected. That's very important. Click new, and then make a new material. Basically do the exact same thing, but just make it a lighter brown. Something like this, maybe more like pine colored brown. And just make sure all the little edges right here that are visible can be seen. And then click this little arrow to move this pine color up, and then click assign. So that's going to assign the material to each of these. And what we can do now is we can select all of these, or all the little stakes, and then copy material to selected, copy material to selected, and then what we're going to do is select all the sticks again, and we should have all the materials. We do have all the materials there, and we should be good. And now I'm going to apply the same wooden material over here, and yeah, so that's what we have so far. What I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to make a plane and then RX90 on my keyboard and just put it in this house right here in front of the door somewhere, in front of the door and window, and then just give it a new material and then change it to emission, and then make the color a kind of like orange glow, and then change the emission to like 5 or something. So now we have that, and we're gonna set up our lighting now. So just add another plane under it, scale it up. This is gonna be basically what it's sitting on because we're going for an isometric style. And hit 0 on your numpad to go into camera view. Click on your camera. It should be like close to the top of your hierarchy. And then if you're not already in this menu, go down to this little green camera down here. Type, change it to orthographic. And then what I like to do, this is a personal preference really, is I like just changing it to square. So like 1080 by 1080 or like 2460 by 2460, whatever. And then we can go back down to the camera and then change the orthographic scale. It will increase it to where it's like this. And if you notice that the camera is clipping, what we can do is we can clip the end to like that, and then the clip start we can change to like 0, but sometimes that won't work, so you will have to bring this down a little bit more to where it's like that, to where it's not clipping anymore. And then what we can do is we can set up our lighting. So I want this to be a nighttime scene, so all I'm really going to do is I'm gonna make one area lights and then kind of point it over here, change the size to 5, power to maybe 50, and I'm going to keep it white because I want this to simulate moonlight. So I'm going to have it pointing at the river, just have it like that. And I'm going to change the render engine to cycles, and I'm going to change it to GPU compute if you have a dedicated GPU. And I'm going to go in our world settings and change the color to black. So now if we look at this, what we have so far, this is what we have so far. And now what we can do is we can select our little landscape and just give it a grassy material by just basically adding a principal BSDF, changing it to green, changing it to a darker green, and then giving the roughness all the way up. So now that we have that, what we're gonna do is we're gonna like set dress the scene. We're gonna add trees and little grass and stuff. So the first tree I'm gonna add, and how I'm gonna add it is I'm gonna hit Shift A on my keyboard and then add a cylinder, bring it over here, scale it up so we can see what we're working on, kind of scale it down like this, or scale it like this. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add cones, or not another cylinder, more cones. We're going to add cones, bring it over here, scale it up, and then just basically put this cone on top of the cylinder to where it's kind of even. So we have this cone, and what we can do is if we go to vertex select, we can just bring down these little, I'm actually going to turn dynamic topology off. We can just bring down some of these vertices to kind of give it a like spiky tree type thing going on, so it's not just a flat cone. And then we can just move these vertices around, do this, and so now we have this kind of centered on the thing again. And then what we can do is we can just duplicate this, move it up a little bit, kind of rotate it, and then one more time, kind of rotate it a little bit more like that. And so now we can just change our cylinder until it looks right. And so what we're going to do is we are going to give this we can use the same brown material that we used before, and then the trees we're going to make another green material, so it's going to be more of a like lighter green, I guess, with a high roughness too. And just click this, click this, click this, and then click copy material selected. And once you have your tree and you're happy with this, once you're absolutely perfect, like certain that your tree is perfect, select every part of your tree and hit Control J. And that's going to join it into one mesh. And you can't really see it right here, but that's going to join it in one mesh. And now what we're going to do is we are going to make a different type of tree. So what we're going to do that is we're going to get a cube, bring the cube over here, and we're going to select every vertice except for one. So just leave one vertice unselected and then delete vertices. So now we're left with this one vertice, and here's a really cool trick to make low poly trees really quick. Just once you have that vertice selected, hit E and just start extruding. And start extruding up like this. And start doing this. Branch off a little bit here maybe. And just kind of make this little tree type thing right here. I'm gonna move this vertice out a little more. This one too. And once you have this tree type shape, what we can do is we can go to modifiers, add modifier, and then where is it at? A skin modifier. So you have your skin modifier, but it looks a little bit weird right now. So if we go, if we look at it and hit Control A, or not Control A, we go tab into edit mode and select a vertice and hit Control A. We can scale it down. So just scale these down to where they look like actual branches and stuff. You can go in wireframe mode by hitting Z and then wireframe, and then Control A, bring this down, bring this down, and we can also bring this down. The base needs to be a little bit wider. Just start shaping the tree out how you want your tree to look, how thick or how thin you want your branches to be. Don't make them too thick, don't make them too thin. Just think about how a tree should look. Then you should be good. So I'd say that's a pretty good looking tree right now. And what we can do is we can apply that skin modifier and then add a subdivision surface to give it a more rounded look, and just make the render version a 1-2, and just click apply. And now what we're going to do is we're going to give this that same brown material too, and then we're just going to add icospheres. Now just add an icosphere, bring it over to where your tree is. Now the icosphere itself doesn't look low poly. To get that low poly like ball of leaves look, we're going to go to modifiers again, and this time add a decimate modifier. It's right here, and then just start decimating it until it looks something like this. And you can stretch it out and stuff. Put it like right here. Put one like right here. Maybe one on top of it too. And just put like these little balls of leaves. You can change the decimate modifier to give it more or less polygons, to like change it up a little bit if you want. Rotate it, make sure you're rotating it so they don't look the same. And then yeah, just pretty much keep doing this until you have something you like. So now what we're going to do is we're going to give a green material to this. So we're going to use the same green material that we used for the last tree, and we're just going to select all these little things that we got, and then just click copy material selected. And once we have all these, we can just hit B on our keyboard to box select it and hit Control J, and that will join them back again. But I just messed up. We have to apply our decimate modifiers on all these before we can do that. Otherwise we'll do what I just did and revert them back to normal icospheres. So just apply the decimate modifiers on all of them, and then we can box select it and hit Control J. And so those are our trees. And now what we can do to add our trees is we can do a thing called weight painting. We could do weight painting, or I think it might be easier to just place these by hand, honestly. Just because they're like trees and stuff. So just look in your camera to look how big the tree should be. Place the trees kind of randomly throughout your scene. You can rotate them and stuff if you want. Make sure to kind of spread them out and stuff. And if they're on a bank, rotate them how they should look. And just stuff like this. Now we can bring some over here too. Shift D. I'm duplicating by Shift D, by the way. I probably should have mentioned that. Just put these around here. Maybe behind the house a little bit, behind the hut. Through here. Just do this until you have enough of these trees out. Make sure they're not obstructing the view of the hut. And once you have that, you can go get your other tree, bring it over, and basically do the exact same thing. So I'm gonna bring this, put it down, use this other tree for scale, then just bring this around, rotate them and stuff. Just put these around somewhere, different places. Excuse me, different places and stuff. And we can do that. Do this. Do that a little more. And finally this. So now we have our trees. So if we look at it now, this is what it's looking like right now. So what we're going to do now is we actually might want to make this grass a little less rough, like this. Also make the trees less rough, so they're like that. And then what we can do is we can add our grass. So a very easy way to make grass, just get a plane. Bring the plane out, RX 90 to bring it up, just bring it over somewhere to the side, scale it down to where it's like this. What we're going to do is we're going to hit tab and then control R and then scroll wheel until there's about 4 cuts. And what we can do now is we can go to edge select or 2 on your keyboard, select this top part, use proportional editing, and then just make it into basically a blade of grass. And then we can do this and then rotate it and stuff. Just rotate it to where it's looking like that. Duplicate it, RZ 180, and just kind of make these clumps of grass. And you can pretty much do whatever you want with the grass. You can make them look however you want. But once you have the grass, once you have a little clump like this, just basically a good time now to apply the material to them. So I'm going to apply a kind of green, kind of dark blue material to them, kind of like that. And then just copy all the materials to that one like we have been doing this whole time. Copy all materials and then select all your grass, Shift D, duplicate it, RZ45, duplicate it again, scale it down, scale it up maybe, until we have this. Now once you're happy with your grass, what you can do is you can select it, you can scale it down maybe on that axis, and hit Control J to join them together. And so now for our grass, what we're going to do to apply our grass is we're going to use particles instead of hand placing every single grass. And the way we're going to do that is by weight painting. Weight painting basically creates a vertex group that tells Blender where to put the particles once we define it. So just click on our landscape right here, go to object mode, where it says object mode up here, and go to weight paint. Now you'll see it's blue and stuff. So just start painting. The red parts are where it's going to be most populated, yellow parts are medium, green parts are low populated, and light blue parts are barely anything. So just wherever you want your grass at, just do it around there, through here and stuff, through here a little bit. And then I'm going to go to the subtract brush over here and then just basically get them away from the trees so they don't intersect with the trees and look weird. And so we have something like that. And we can always adjust the weight paint later if we need to. But now that we have that, we can go over here to this little dot with the 3 dots coming out of it over on the right side. That's our particle settings. And just click this little plus over here on the right top. And once we have this, we need to change the particles to hair. And you see this looks really crazy right now. 1, because we don't have that vertex group set, and 2, we don't have anything telling it to use the grass. So what we can do is under render, we can render as object, and then the instant object, just click the eyedropper tool and go over to your grass, or if you've named your grass, you can use that, and then use that. So now we have our grass set. You also need to use object rotation. This will rotate the objects in the correct way most of the time. And then to actually tell them where to use that vertex group that we defined, go down to vertex groups down here. Vertex groups and density, just pick group. So now we have this, and what we're going to do is we're going to give it a little bit more grass. Is we're going to go to children and click interpolated, and change the display amount to maybe like 4 or something, and render amount to like 5, or you could use the same amount. I'm probably going to use the same amount. And now we have that. So now if we look at our render right now, we have this. So that's looking pretty cool. I'm going to go back to the weight paint, turn this back on, or get out of the subtract brush, and then just kind of draw in where it looks like they're lacking and stuff in grass. So I'm just going to do that. And then object mode. And now what we can do is we can increase the power of our light. So I'm probably going to increase it to maybe 500 to just see how that looks. And that looks alright. I'm also going to change the material of this plane down here to a dark gray. So change the roughness all the way up on that. I'm also probably going to change the roughness on this a little bit more too. And what we can do to actually give this grass a little bit more texture is we can give it a noise texture. So just go up here to the top left and go right under the Blender logo, and you'll get this little crosshair. Just click and drag, and that'll split your window. Go over here to where this little ball and grid is, click it, and then go into shader editor. And what we're going to do is we're going to select our object, and we're going to hit Shift A. We're going to add a color ramp first, and we're going to add a noise texture. We're going to put the color into the FAC of the color ramp, change the scale to like 7.8, detail all the way up, or no, maybe, yeah, all the way up. And now we're going to add a bump node. So just add a just Shift A and then type in bump. This will give you a bump node. Put the color of the color ramp into the height of the bump node, and then the normal into the normal and the principal shader. And then you can put these up a little bit like this. And now if we look, we now have this. So you can see down here it's looking like that. You can change the roughness if you want, something like that. So yeah, just gives the grass a little bit more texture that it didn't have before. And I'm gonna change the area light to maybe 250 to where we have this. And once we have that, what we can do is we can make a little lantern thing. So I'm just gonna make another cylinder and bring it down, scale it up to a sizable pole size. Bring it over here, bring it to where it's kind of sitting on the dock. Bring it down. And once we have that, what we can do is we can click the cylinder, tab into edit mode, add a loop cut right here, nope, not right there, add a loop cut right here, and then Alt Shift that, and then we can just move this a little bit, something like that. And now what we can do is we can add yet another cylinder, scale it down, and this time what we're going to do is we're going to add a loop cut at the top and near the bottom. And then we're going to go into face select or pressing 3 on your keyboard, select the top face, inset that, extrude it, inset it a little less, extrude, inset, extrude. So and once we do that, we can change it like that, and then we can basically do that. Same thing at the bottom, inset, extrude, inset, extrude. And then what we can do is we can shift alt this inside right, and then hit ES, and then just extrude it in. And so once we have that, we can shade smooth, and if you notice, it looks a lot like Play-Doh right now, which isn't good. So we're going to go to modifiers and add an edge split modifier. That'll clean that up, and we can just apply that. And we're going to give this a metal, just a principal BSDF with the metallic turned all the way up, roughness at like 0.3. And then what we're going to do is we're going to hit tab, make sure these middle faces are selected, give it a new material, and then put it on glass BSDF with a very low roughness, maybe 0.09. Click this little arrow to move it to the top, and then click assign. And then once we have that, we can put our lantern like right here. And if you really wanted to, you could probably add like a little chain or something, but it's gonna be so small you're not gonna really see it anyway. What we could do is just do this. Do this thing. And then what we're going to do after that is we're just going to add a point light by going Shift A, light, and then point. Bring the point light up. It's way too big right now, so what we're going to do is we're going to change the radius to maybe 0.1. Once the radius is at 0.1, we can put this kind of inside the lantern. So it's inside the lantern. Change the power to something like 50, and then give it just a warm kind of orange color. And so once we have that, if we look at it now, we can see that we have this, and maybe we should turn the power down to like 25-ish, maybe 10. We can give it a warmer glow. Now we can also change, yeah, I think that's good. Once we have that, if we take away the lights, let me see how that looks. So after a quick break, I figured out what I'm going to do with the lighting here. So I've decided instead of using these point lights, I'm going to use area lights once again. I'm going to go ahead and give this maybe 500 with a bluish tint. And I'm going to bring this over here to where it's pointing downstream, like so, like this. And then I'm going to give these, actually I'm going to make this smaller. I'm going to make this 2, and then I'm going to put this over here, and I'm going to put this over here, and we can see how that looks right now. So that looks a lot better. Immediately looks a lot better. So we have this now. We have this like cool scene looking thing. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give it some volumetrics. So I'm going to go mesh and then plane, and then scale up this cube to where it covers the whole scene. Now I'm going to give it a new material, but we're not going to actually give it a surface material. We're going to give it a volume material. So under surface, just go up here where it says link and just click disconnect, because we're not even going to worry about that. and then under volume, just click volume, and then principal volume, and then maybe 0.03 or something, and we can see how that looks. And so that's looking pretty good right now. So that's nice. I might change this to maybe 250. Maybe change these to 250 also. Maybe 400. 400 might do. And then I'm gonna click this little plane right here inside the house, and then I might change this to maybe 10. Might change it higher. And then the first point light, I'm just gonna scroll down here and then point maybe 25 as well. And that way I can change these area lights back. To where we have this thing. And now what I can do is just select the cube. Maybe make it 0.05-ish. And now we have this. So this is looking pretty good. But I'm gonna add one more thing, and that is just this and this and the other set. Shift D, bring it over here. I'm just gonna bring it over here. This, I'm gonna bring it over here. I'm just gonna Shift D this all the way across, like so. Then I'm gonna do the same things with these little stakes. Shift D, and just make this nice little bridge right here. So this is what it's looking like. This is what it looks like so far. So I think it's looking pretty good. What I'll probably do is I'll probably duplicate this lantern, this, and this. Bring it over here, RZ 180 to just kind of flip it around, and then just put this near the edge right here. I'm gonna hit period on my numpad to focus it, and just do this and see how this looks. So that's looking pretty good. So that's how to make a quick low poly, well, not quick, but that's how to make a very low poly stylized render. So thanks guys so much for watching. If you liked it, make sure to like the video and subscribe. That really helps the channel out, gets my videos out to more people. But thanks guys so much for watching. My name is Michael from Polygon Island, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.